I spent years wondering why my lawn looked worse than my neighbor's, even though I was out there every single weekend putting in the work. Turns out I was making at least 7 of the 15 mistakes I'm about to share with you today. And once I finally identified them and stopped doing them, my lawn went from the embarrassment of the block to the one people actually slow down to look at. So today we are walking through 15 mistakes that are secretly killing your lawn. These are the things nobody warns you about, the habits that feel right but are quietly working against you. And I will tell you right now, the last one on this list is the one that genuinely changed how I think about lawn care after decades of getting it wrong myself. It is the kind of thing that once you hear it, you cannot unhear it, and your whole approach shifts. I have also got a bonus tip for you after we get through all 15. It is something I stumbled onto a few years back that has nothing to do with mowing or fertilizing, but it might be the easiest thing you can do to make your lawn look noticeably better almost overnight. So stick around for that. Here's the thing. Most of these mistakes come down to one simple principle that took me way too long to learn. Your lawn is a living system, not a project you attack with brute force. The grass, the soil, the microbes, the roots, they are all connected. When you work with that system instead of against it, everything gets easier, and the results get dramatically better. I used to think more effort meant a better lawn, more mowing, more fertilizer, more water. I was dead wrong. Once I started understanding the biology even just a little bit, it was like the lights came on. So let us walk through it together, starting with something almost everybody does without even thinking about it. Mowing your lawn too short. I used to scalp my grass down to about 1.5 inches because I thought shorter meant neater. It looked tidy for about 2 days, and then it turned into a brown weedy mess every single summer. Here is why. When you cut cool season grasses like tall fescue or Kentucky bluegrass below 3 in, you are removing the leaf blade that the plant needs for photosynthesis. Less leaf means less energy, which means shallower roots, which means your grass cannot handle heat or drought. Research out of Purdue University's turf program showed that raising mowing height from 2 into 3 and 1 to 2 and reduced summer weed pressure by nearly 60% in residential lawns. That is a massive difference from just adjusting one setting on your mower. So if you are running a rotary mower, set your deck height to 3 and 1/2 in during the growing season. In the heat of summer, go up to 4. Trust me on this one. Your lawn will be thicker, greener, and far more resilient. Mowing with dull blades? I went an entire season, maybe longer if I am being honest, without sharpening my mower blades. I figured if the grass was getting cut, the blades were fine. They were not fine. Dull blades do not cut grass, they tear it. And when you look closely at torn grass tips, they turn white and brown and ragged. That damage is basically an open wound on every single blade of grass in your lawn, inviting disease and losing moisture. I started sharpening my blades every 20 to 25 hours of mowing, which for most homeowners is about once a month during the peak season. And the difference was obvious within a week. The lawn looked cleaner, the color was deeper, and I stopped seeing that grayish haze after mowing that I used to think was just normal. You can sharpen them yourself with a $10 file, or take them to a hardware store for $5 to $10. It is one of the cheapest improvements you can make. Watering your lawn the wrong way. For the longest time, I was watering a little bit every day. 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I thought I was being diligent. In reality, I was training my grass to grow shallow, weak roots because the water never penetrated more than the top half-inch of soil. The roots had no reason to dig deeper. The better approach, and this comes straight from university extension recommendations across the country, is to water deeply and infrequently. You want to put down about 1 in of water per week, including rainfall, in 1 or 2 sessions, rather than 7 short ones. An easy way to measure it is to set out a few tuna cans or cat food tins around your yard. Run the sprinkler and time how long it takes to fill them to 1 in. For most sprinkler systems, that is somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes per zone. Once I switched to this, I noticed my grass stayed green longer during dry spells because the roots were reaching down 6 to 8 in instead of sitting at the surface. It is simpler than you think, and the results speak for themselves. Now, if you are finding these helpful, I want to mention something real quick. I put together a guide called the 30-Day Weed Kill Protocol. It is available right now for $17. Inside, you get the exact day-by-day system I follow for killing clover, crabgrass, dandelions, and the 7 most common lawn weeds. It covers pre-emergent timing, post-emergent application techniques, spot treatment methods, and a full seasonal maintenance calendar. It is written the same way I talk in these videos. No fluff, just the plan. If weeds are your main headache, this guide will save you a ton of frustration. Scan the QR code on screen or check the link in the description. All right, let us keep going because we have still got some real game changers coming up. Watering at the wrong time of day. I used to water in the evening because it felt cooler, and I figured less water would evaporate. Sounds logical, right? The problem is that watering in the evening leaves your grass wet all night long, and that is an open invitation for fungal diseases like brown patch and dollar spot. The best time to water is early morning, between 4 and 8 a.m. The grass dries as the sun comes up, which minimizes disease risk, and you still get less evaporation than watering at noon. If you have a timer on your sprinkler system, just set it and forget it. If you are dragging a hose around like I did for years, an inexpensive hose timer for about $15 to $20 will change your life. Not testing your soil. I went probably 8 years dumping fertilizer and lime on my lawn based on what I read online without ever actually knowing what my soil needed. When I finally sent a sample to my state extension office, which cost about $15 by the way, I found out my pH was 5.2. That is way too acidic for most cool season grasses, which prefer 6.0 to 7.0. At that low pH, my grass literally could not absorb the nutrients I was paying to apply. All that fertilizer was basically wasted money. A simple soil test tells you your pH, your phosphorus, your potassium, and your organic matter levels. It takes 10 minutes to collect the sample, and you get a report back in about 2 weeks with exact recommendations. It is the single best investment you can make before you spend another dollar on lawn products. Over-fertilizing. I know. It feels like more fertilizer should equal greener grass. I thought that too. One spring, I doubled the recommended rate on a bag of synthetic fertilizer because I wanted faster results. What I got was burned grass, a flush of top growth that needed mowing every 3 days, and a lawn that actually became more susceptible to disease. Here's the thing. Most cool season lawns need about 3 to 4 lb of nitrogen per 1,000 SGFT per year, split across 3 to 4 applications. That works out to about 3 to 4 of a pound to 1 lb of nitrogen per application. More than that, and you are stressing the plant. Always follow the bag rate. Use a calibrated spreader, and if you are unsure, underapply rather than overapply. You can always add more. You cannot take it back. Ignoring your mowing pattern. For years, I mowed in the same direction every single time, front to back, front to back. I did not think it mattered. But over time, I noticed the grass was starting to lean in one direction, and the soil along my mowing lines was getting compacted from the mower wheels following the same tracks. Alternating your mowing direction each time, going north to south 1 week and east to west the next, encourages the grass to grow upright and distributes wheel traffic more evenly. It also gives you those nice stripe patterns if you are into that sort of thing. It takes 0 extra time and 0 extra money. You just go a different way, bagging your clippings when you should be mulching them. For a long time, I bagged everything because I thought clippings cause thatch. That is actually a myth. Grass clippings decompose quickly and return valuable nitrogen to the soil. Research from the University of Minnesota showed that mulching clippings can provide up to 25% of your lawn's annual nitrogen needs. That is basically a free fertilizer application just from leaving the clippings where they fall. The only time you should bag is if the grass got way too long between mowings and the clippings are clumping up and smothering the lawn. Otherwise, let them lie. Your lawn will thank you, and you save yourself the hassle of dealing with all those bags. Applying pre-emergent herbicide at the wrong time. Pre-emergent is what stops crabgrass and other annual weeds from germinating, but it only works if it is in place before those weed seeds start sprouting. I used to just apply it whenever I got around to it in the spring, sometimes in late April or even May. By then, the crabgrass had already germinated and the product was useless. The rule of thumb is to apply pre-emergent when soil temperatures reach about 50 degree or F at a 4 in depth for several consecutive days. In much of the northern United States, that is typically mid-March to mid-April. You can track soil temperatures for free on the Greencast website. A couple of weeks early is far better than a couple of days late with pre-emergent. Once those seeds crack open, your window is closed. Aerating at the wrong time. Specifically, core aerating in the spring, and then wondering why your pre-emergent did not work. When you pull cores out of the soil in spring, you are punching holes right through that pre-emergent barrier you just laid down. You are essentially rolling out the red carpet for weed seeds. The ideal time to core aerate cool season lawns is fall, late August through October for most of the northern regions. The soil is still warm, the grass is heading into its peak growth period, and you are not disrupting any pre-emergent barrier. If your soil is heavily compacted, aerate once a year in the fall. For most home lawns, every other year is sufficient. You want to pull cores that are about 2 to 3 in deep and 1 or 2 in diameter. Leave the cores on the surface. They will break down on their own within a couple of weeks. Neglecting the edges. I spent so much time focused on making the main body of my lawn look good that I completely ignored the edges along sidewalks, driveways, and flower beds. But here is what I learned. Clean, defined edges make an average lawn look great, and sloppy edges make a great lawn look average. It is the frame around the painting. You do not need an expensive power edger. A simple half-moon edging tool for about $20 does the job. Edge once in early spring to establish the line, then maintain it with a string trimmer throughout the season. It takes maybe 15 extra minutes per mow, and the visual impact is enormous. My neighbor actually told me my lawn looked like it was professionally maintained, and the only thing I had changed was edging consistently, compacting your soil by working on your lawn when it is wet. I used to mow right after a rain because the grass was growing fast and I wanted to stay on top of it. What I did not realize is that mower wheels on saturated soil press the air right out of the soil structure. Compacted soil means less oxygen for roots, poor drainage, and weaker grass overall. The general rule is if you step on the lawn and your footprint stays compressed and shiny, it is too wet to mow or do any heavy work on. Wait a day. I know it is tempting to just get it done, especially if you are only free on weekends and it rains on Saturday. But the damage you do to your soil structure is not worth it. Let it dry out first. Overseeding without doing any prep work. I see this all the time and I did it myself more than once. You buy a bag of grass seed, throw it over your existing lawn, water it and wait, and nothing happens. Or maybe a few sparse blades come up that die off within a month. The seed needs soil contact to germinate. If it is just sitting on top of existing grass and thatch, it dries out and the birds eat half of it. Before overseeding, at a minimum, you need to mow short, about 2 to 2.5 in, dethatch or at least aggressively rake the area, and then spread the seed. Even better, core aerate first, drop the seed, and top dress with a thin layer of compost about 1/4 in. The seed falls into the aeration holes, makes contact with soil, stays moist, and germinates at a much higher rate. This is the difference between wasting $40 on seed and actually getting results. Choosing the wrong grass type for your conditions. I spent 3 years trying to grow Kentucky bluegrass in a yard that gets maybe 4 hours of direct sunlight. It would green up in spring, thin out by July, and by fall it looked pathetic. When I finally switched those shaded areas to a fine fescue blend, specifically creeping red fescue and chewings fescue, the difference was like night and day. Fine fescues are naturally shade tolerant, need less water, and require less fertilizer. They actually thrive in the conditions that would starve Kentucky bluegrass. If you have a mix of sun and shade, use different seed blends for different areas. Read the label. If it says full sun and your yard has significant tree cover, that seed is going to struggle no matter how perfectly you do everything else. Match the grass to the environment, not the other way around. Treating your soil like dirt instead of treating it like a living ecosystem. For years, I focused entirely on what I was putting on top of my lawn: fertilizer, herbicide, seed, water. I never once thought about what was happening underneath. Then I read a study about soil biology and how healthy soil contains billions of microorganisms per teaspoon that break down organic matter, make nutrients available to grass roots, and suppress disease. When you rely exclusively on synthetic inputs and skip organic matter, you gradually degrade that biology. The soil becomes lifeless and compacted, and your grass becomes completely dependent on whatever you feed it, like a patient on life support. I started incorporating a thin-top dressing of quality compost once a year in the fall, about 1/4 to 1/2 in across the lawn after aerating. I also began leaving clippings to decompose, and I reduced my synthetic fertilizer by about 40%, supplementing with organic options. Within 2 seasons, my soil test showed organic matter had gone from 1.8% to 3.1%. The grass was thicker, the color was richer, and I was actually spending less money and less time than before. That is the part that got me. I was not working harder, I was working less and getting better results because the soil was doing more of the work for me. If you take one thing away from this entire video, let it be this: feed your soil, not just your grass. Everything else becomes easier when you do. Now, before I wrap up, let me touch on a few common patterns I see that these tips address. A lot of us, myself included for years, take an approach where we just react to problems as they appear. We see weeds, we spray. We see brown spots, we water more. We see thin grass, we throw down seed. The better approach is to build a proactive system: consistent mowing height, proper watering schedule, annual soil testing, and timely applications based on what your soil actually needs. It feels slower at first, but it saves you enormous amounts of time and frustration over a full season. Another common pattern is trusting the bag label on fertilizer without knowing your soil's baseline. You might be adding phosphorus to soil that already has excessive phosphorus, which can actually inhibit root growth and contribute to water pollution. Test first, then buy only what you need. And finally, a lot of folks think that if a product or technique works for someone on YouTube, it will work for them. But your climate zone, your soil type, your grass species, your sun exposure, they are all different. Always adapt general advice to your specific conditions. That is not a cop-out. That is just smart lawn care. Now here is that bonus tip I promised you. This one has nothing to do with mowing or fertilizing or any product at all. It is about the visual trick of lawn striping using nothing more than a basic push mower and a homemade striping kit. I took a 3-in diameter PVC pipe, filled it with sand, capped both ends, and attached it behind my mower deck with a couple of light chains and eye bolts. Total cost was about $12. When you mow in alternating directions, that weighted pipe gently bends the grass blades one way and then the other, creating those light and dark stripes you see on baseball fields and golf courses. It does not make your grass healthier, but it makes a good-looking lawn look spectacular, and it makes an average lawn look like a professional maintains it. People stop and ask me about it all the time. It takes about 20 minutes to build and adds 0 extra time to your mowing routine. If you want your lawn to look a notch above everyone else on the street, trust me on this one. It is the easiest upgrade you will ever make. So, to bring it all together, if you want the complete system behind everything I talked about today, especially when it comes to tackling weeds, check out the 30-day weed kill protocol. It is $17 right now, and inside you get my exact day-by-day weed elimination plan, identification guides for the 7 most common lawn weeds, pre-emergent and post-emergent timing schedules, spot treatment techniques, and a full seasonal maintenance calendar, so you know exactly what to do and when to do it all year long. It is the guide I wish I had when I started because it would have saved me years of trial and error and a lot of wasted money on products that did not work. Scan the QR code on screen or grab it through the link in the description. I hope this helped clear up some of the confusion out there. A thick, healthy lawn is absolutely within your reach, and you do not need to spend a fortune or hire a service to get there. Let me know in the comments which of these mistakes you have been making. I bet most of us can relate to at least a few. Happy mowing, and I will see you in the next one. If these tips change the way you look at the grass beneath your feet, please subscribe and like the video. We are digging deep into the secrets of nature that others try to ignore. Let's grow a better future together. The next green treasure is coming soon.